Let's bring in the man who wrote that statement, the president of the White House Correspondents Association, Eugene Daniels, an MSNBC political contributor. I'm not big on navel gazing when it comes to the press, but Eugene, for people who don't understand the importance of the press pool at the White House, the people who follow the president day in and day out, explain the big picture implications for Americans getting news, also for the constitutional order.
Yeah. Let me explain how the coverage of the presidential pool works. Whether this president or others are in the Oval Office, traveling abroad, traveling down the street, there's always a group of journalists that is called the press pool that covers that person's every move. They share their notes, their video, their sound with their colleagues who are not there so that they can cover the president. And that information goes to the people in this country and all over the world. And for nearly a century, the WHCA, the White House Correspondents Association, has created a professional standards for format, link accuracy, most importantly for the American people. And they could trust that those standards created by the folks that actually do the work were understood by everyone. You could trust the documents and the reports that were coming out of that. That it can no longer be trusted, frankly, because at the end of the day, the standards will be created by the folks that are being covered. And that is different than it has ever been. And at the end of the day, like I said in my statement, this is not about us at the WHCA. This is about the American people being able to depend on what comes out of these press pools and getting unvarnished look at the people who run their country.
We just saw a picture of one of the deans of the White House press corps, Peter Baker of the New York Times. He wrote this, Eugene: having served as a Moscow correspondent in the early days of Putin's reign, this reminds me of how the Kremlin took over its own press pool and made sure that only compliant journalists were given access. Is this a warning to journalists? If you ask questions or write stories the president doesn't like, you're not going to have access.
You know, I think at the end of the day, what the White House has said publicly, or a White House official said, that this was an F around and find out moment for the WHCA, not thinking, it seems, about the implications for the chilling effect it might have, and most importantly, the impact on the American people. Like I said, to be able to trust what comes out of those press reports. And, you know, in a free country, leaders shouldn't get to choose. And for a very long time, White Houses, both Democrat and Republican, have allowed the WHCA, a third party of elected people that are in the board, to help coordinate all of these pools, because they know that it makes them look strong. You're not picking the people who are doing it, and you stay away from it. And frankly, many of them decided that it took up too much of their time. That is changing, it seems, today.
Yeah, and look, the argument that the press secretary is making about there's a lot of different ways people get their news now, completely. Axios, give that as just one example, and a lot of people there who worked in more traditional media, who are great reporters. But as an example of some of the alternative news organizations invited into the briefing room by the Trump press office, I want you to listen to a question from a reporter from the Gateway Pundit. This is not a straight news organization, but a far-right, Trump-friendly outlet, which you will hear in this question.
We're hearing this ironic narrative from the president's critics and the left-wing media that Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat and he's doing all this terrible stuff. Isn't one of Doge's objectives to get rid of the federal bureaucracy, the deep state? And also, who was running the White House when Joe Biden was in office? Because I don't know a single person who believes it was Joe Biden.
When he gets a question like that, the president often says, I like that question. Of course, the premise of it is not even true. Will the result of the White House's decision be that we see more and more of those kinds of questions, more and more opportunity, whether it's the president or whether it's the press secretary, to just affirm what is being said to them?
Yeah, you know what's really interesting? There's some misinformation, not from you, obviously, but that's out there about the WHCA and who is in the pool, who is a part of our association. But for years, we have worked as new and emerging media, including the place that I work now, Politico, grew up and became news organizations, to get those news organizations within the pool, to bring them into the fold at the WHCA. It's not true that we've been blocking people out. And some of those organizations are conservative outlets that we have been good members of our pool. The Daily Caller is in there. Fox News has been in there for a long time. We have even Newsmax, which is a member of the association. And so it's not true that we've been blocking people out because they're conservative. But at the end of the day, it does appear that the addition of some of these folks will change the tenor of a lot of those questions. And for us at the WHC, it's always been about a game of addition and not subtraction, right? We want more people to be in there. We want to pay attention to the different changes that are happening in the media environment, the podcasters and all of that. But those decisions should remain as a part of the folks that do the covering and not the people that are being covered.
Yeah, we should also say that one of Fox News' senior White House correspondents was one who pushed back almost immediately on this decision. And I'm just going to say I don't give a lot of opinions. I try not to give opinions, but I spent 2.5 years covering the Obama White House and then a short period of time with Donald Trump's first administration, including traveling abroad with him. Members of the White House press corps are some of the smartest, hardest working people that I've ever had the privilege to work alongside. The hardest job, bar none, in almost 50 years as a journalist I've ever had. And hats off to you and other members of the WHCA, because your job is never easy. And I think that in these days, it's very important for you to stand up and defend a free press. It's what we should all want, which is why our founding fathers talked about it. Eugene Daniels, enough about me. Thank you so much.